Hello, everyone. I think this is working. Anyways, hello, everyone. My name is Farmer Andrew. I'm from a farm called Brantwood Farms, out by Brantford. If anyone knows where that is, that's about half an hour west of Hamilton and then about 20 minutes south of Cambridge, Kitchener, just to give you guys a bit of an idea. We do all sorts of different things here at Brantwood Farms. We grow about 11 different crops. We do everything from about asparagus, strawberries, sweet corn, pumpkins, apples, a few other different kinds of beans and peas and things like that as well. But today, we're going to focus on one crop, and that is strawberries. They're one of my favorite crops to grow. They're definitely one of my favorite crops to eat. And I think we're going to try and take you guys on a whole tour of what it takes to start strawberry planting and to all the way to finish it to picking it. So I am standing in between two of our fields right now. Right behind me is a field that we just planted about 2 weeks ago. So it's a little bit harder to see the plants, but I'm going to go over that shortly. And then right behind me this way is the field we planted last year. And we actually have some strawberries that are ready over there, and we're going to go through some of those too as well. So I should be able to show you guys a good tour, and hopefully you guys can learn some stuff about strawberries, and hopefully you guys can maybe even start growing your own strawberries in your gardens if you guys want to do that after. So anyways, we're out in my new strawberry planting here. If you guys can see me, sorry. And I'm just going to show you guys, these are all our new plants. Like I said, we planted these about 2 weeks ago. It took us quite a bit of time. We have to go really, really slow. But there are all these little guys right here. All these green guys hopefully will turn into big, big strawberry plants by next year. So we plant our strawberry plants about 10 to 14 inches apart and 4 feet across from the rows. So that means we're planting about 10,000 plants per acre. And an acre, for anyone who doesn't know, is about the size of a football field. So we got about 10,000 plants. There's about 4 acres here, so there's about 4 football fields here. And that means we got about 40,000 different strawberry plants. So it takes us quite a long time to plant them all. We have to plant them all by hand. Well, in a way, we use something called a transplanter. And what that means is let me just turn this around again. We get plants that are called bare root plants. So that means that when we get them, they're just little plants. They don't really have, I'm trying to find one here for you. We get something that looks like, this. This is what we get. This is called a bare root plant. We get about 10,000 of these an acre. They're just little strawberry plants from the top. And then there's all these roots at the bottom of them. And so what we do is we go along, we have a little transplanter, makes a little ditch right in the ground here, and we have to drop each one of these in one at a time. And then we have to make sure that dirt is completely covered. Because what happens is sometimes if you have your roots sticking out too far, you're actually going to have a big problem and your plant is going to actually dry up from the sun and it's going to die. It's going to start looking like this. We're not going to have any green ones. Yeah, how long does it take us to plant all our strawberries? This past year, we had a really good stretch of weather and it took us about 8 days to do it. We can usually, if we have a good day and a good team, we can usually plant about half an acre a day. So we can plant about 5,000 plants a day. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes it rains, in which case we don't get a full day in. Sometimes we work a little bit harder and we might be able to get 3/4 to an acre in at a time, which is about the size of a football field before, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're planting lots of strawberries, it sure takes quite a bit of time. How do we water these plants? Well, so we have been lucky this year because we have gotten quite a bit of rain this year so far. But you're right, water is really important for new strawberries. So if we hadn't gotten these rains, we would have to irrigate them. And how we do that, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but there we have a creek way back at the back of the farm, way back there. And we would have to pump water all the way up here and we use something called an irrigation gun. And what it does, it shoots water about 100 feet each way and can put about an inch of water on every time. It takes quite a bit of work. It takes quite a long time. So we enjoy it a lot more when it rains. If it hadn't rained, we would have to use irrigation though. Good question though, well done. So as you can see, so now that we have these things planted, we're not done yet. We still have lots more work to do this year. One of the biggest challenges we have with growing strawberries is weeds. Weeds really, really like to grow into strawberries, and it's really hard to keep the weeds out of strawberries. So for the next few weeks, we're going to really, really focus on trying to keep this field clean of weeds, because weeds can really, really impact your strawberry yield, and especially this year. This year, what we want to do is we really, really want to focus on the strawberries, these new strawberries, on just growing plants. We just want them to get really big, really bushy, put their roots really deep into the ground, and then hopefully next year we'll actually start taking a crop off of them. And so to promote them to keep growing and not to start growing strawberries, one of our other tasks to do is to actually have to take all the blooms off all the plants we just planted. Strawberries will put a lot of energy into putting out blooms, which will then turn into strawberries. But with these ones that we just planted, the strawberries are actually too small to really even sell. So we don't really want to pick them at all. So what we got to do is we got to come along and we got to pick off a few of the blooms. So even though these were planted just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we already are starting to see some blooms on these. And so what we'll do in the next week or two, we'll just come by and we'll just pick these guys off. And hopefully that plant will work on putting out new root or new deeper roots, more leaves, and new crowns and things like that. So hopefully next year, we're going to have lots and lots more strawberries off of these ones. How many different varieties? Typically, good question. Typically we grow about anywhere from about 7 till 10 different varieties of strawberries. Now the reason we do that is because if we grew one variety of strawberries, they would all come on at the same time. It would make it super, super hard to pick them all. So what we like to do is we grow different varieties that come on and mature at different times of the year. So this field right here that we just planted, we have about 5 different varieties in it. We start with our earliest ones, which are called Wendy and Annapolis. Right behind me, we have one called Evelyn. We have another one called Lila. And at the end, we have my personal favorite variety called Valley Sunsets, which are really big, juicy berries. They're a little bit later, but they're the best tasting ones in my opinion. Yeah. So once we get through, what is a cool fact about strawberries? Good question. Well, my favorite fact about strawberries is how delicious they taste. One of the reasons why they're called strawberries is because we have to put a whole bunch of straw in between strawberry plants, which I'm about to talk to you guys about now, which are right over here. So once we're done, once we get to the summer and through the fall of these strawberries, and hopefully a little bit bigger, we have one more job to do before we're done with our new strawberry planting this year, and that is putting straw on strawberries, which are those big things there. Each one of those weigh about 800 pounds. They're big straw bales, and we have to put for each row of strawberries we have to put one bale down over top of the whole crop. And there's 2 reasons why we do this. The straw throughout the winter is going to make the plants it's going to protect the plants a little bit from the winter, keeps them a little bit warmer throughout the year or throughout the winter so they don't freeze, because if it gets too cold on strawberries, they could possibly die. The other good thing about straw is that it'll keep the weeds down. So you can see we don't have any straw here. So we're going to put all these all over the field this winter. Just before Christmas is when we generally do it. And then it's going to look like we're going to have a big mat of straw, just like right here. And this does 2 things in the next season. We're going to have to come back in the spring. We're going to take all the straw off all the plants, so then they can start growing. But then we leave the straw in the middle of the row, which has 2 purposes. One, it keeps all the moisture in the ground, which is really good. It also keeps the weeds away, which is really, really important. And the most important thing is it actually keeps your berries clean, because strawberries are so close to the ground. sometimes it's actually they get dirty. If they get a really big rain and they're on the ground, sometimes dirt can splash on your berries. And not too many people like to eat dirty berries. They like to eat nice, clean, red berries. So now that we're in my new patch, or the patch we planted last year, you can probably see some of what these plants look like. They just look a little bit bigger than the ones we had before. And you can kind of start to see a few different stages of where we're at. So strawberries usually come in right about June. And this is the first step on getting a strawberry plant. This is a strawberry bloom. So this guy looks like he just started to bloom maybe a day or two before. And what we're gonna have to wait, we're gonna have to wait for a bumblebee to come by and pollinate all these bees or all these blooms. Each and every single one of these blooms is going to be pollinated by some sort of insect or bumblebee. And then once they do that, they're actually going to lose all their white petals and they're going to start turning into something that looks like that. That is your start of the next strawberry. And slowly this guy is going to get a little bit bigger and bigger, and then he's going to turn big and red and juicy, which is my favorite thing. So this is one of our later varieties, because as I walk over through the field, as I walk that way, you're going to see that the strawberries are going to be a little bit later, or they're going to be a little bit farther on. They're going to be a little more red, and they're going to be a little bit bigger. So if we can head over there, we'll see if we can find some nice red berries. How do we spread? Yeah, so sorry, to spread all that straw on all the strawberries, luckily we do have a machine for that. It's a big, imagine like a big lawnmower that can shoot straw out about 10 feet. It takes quite a bit of time. It takes us 2 or 3 weeks to do it. Now the problem is, once we put the straw on, we have to take it off. And in the spring, the best way we found to doing that is by raking. So for anyone who has a lawn and has to rake up leaves, you know how hard it can be to rake up leaves. Imagine doing that for about acres and acres, because that's what we have to do every single year. Every single year, we have about 15 to 20 acres of strawberries to rake off. So that means that each row, we just get one person gets one row with the rake, they go up and down it, and they have to take all the straw off it and put it in between the rows. It takes quite a bit of time. Putting it on the straw, it's pretty easy. Taking the straw off is the harder part. Good question. I did forget that. So how long do strawberries take after they bloom, or in between bloom until they're ready? It takes about 3 weeks is what we like to say. So I can show you here. I got a new plant here. So yeah, generally you want your strawberry plants, once they bloom, you can guess, it is always weather dependent, but once you see something like that, you know it's going to be about 3 weeks until they start turning red. So typically what you start to see is that would be about a week later, they should start to look like this, a little bit bigger. And then the next week, you might start getting a little bit of color, looking like something like these ones down here. And then hopefully by the week after, you should start to see something like this, which is my favorite thing. So you're right. After bloom, yeah, it takes about 3 weeks to go from bloom to strawberry. Now, we are in our earliest variety now, and to promote early strawberries, what we've done before is we put a big blanket over a little bit of our field to help get them a little bit earlier. So that's what we're in right now. That's why some of these strawberries are actually ready to pick, and we have started picking strawberries in this field. We're not picking here today. We're picking at one of our other ones. But we put a big blanket in it in the middle of the winter, just at the end of the winter, and it just helps bring a little more heat to the berries, helps protect them a little bit more, and it helps bring them a little bit earlier because people like early strawberries, or at least I like early strawberries. So if you do have strawberries at home and you're wondering why yours aren't ready yet, don't worry. We kind of cheated a little bit and we got earlier strawberries here by putting a big blanket over them. If you have strawberries in your garden, you still got lots and lots of time to pick your own strawberries. Don't worry. Once we start picking, we usually good question. When I buy strawberries from the store, why do they go bad so fast? What gives? How do I keep my strawberries stay fresh for longer? That is a good question. Well, the best thing to do is just eat your strawberries faster. and then you don't have to worry about them going bad. That's my best solution. But you're right. If you want to keep your strawberries longer, the best thing you should do is to keep them nice and dry, and to also put them in a nice cool place. We like to store ours in our fridge. Make sure they don't get too wet, because if they do get wet, they go a little bit softer quicker. The biggest problem with strawberries is because they're so sweet, they have lots and lots of sugars in them, which likes to break down the strawberry a little bit faster. So you're right, it is a little bit harder to keep them compared to other fruits like apples and things like that, which you can store for a couple weeks. Strawberries are best eaten within a couple days, or else they do go soft. So yeah, keep them cool, keep them dry, keep them out of the sun preferably, or just eat them faster. That's my solution to storing your strawberries. Now that we're picking strawberries, when we start picking strawberries, we probably picked our first few weeks. We only pick about anywhere between about 100 pounds, maybe 120 the first few days. But once we get into the real main season, we can be picking anywhere between about 1,200 pounds to 2,000 pounds of berries a day. So lots and lots of berries. What we expect from each one of those plants that we just saw, we do expect to get about 1 pound of berries off them each year. That would be a good yield. That's kind of what we aim for. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't, but it doesn't always happen. What is the best way to pick a strawberry? Well, the only way and the best way I find is you have to do it by hand. We don't have any machine to pick strawberries yet. All your strawberries you see from our farm and most of the farms around here will all be picked by hand. So if you are coming to pick strawberries, the best thing to do is you have to get low. Lots of people like to stand over the berry or over the plant, and they just like to look down. And what you're going to see is you're just going to see a big mat of green leaves. But the problem is strawberries like to hide underneath all the leaves. So what you got to do is you actually have to move the leaves around. You have to get down your hands and knees, and you got to move them all around. And they like to hide underneath the leaves. Strawberries are really, really good playing hide and seek. That's why you have to move them around, move the leaves around, get low. And when you do find the perfect strawberry, what I like to do is just go right underneath it, pop it right off. If you want your first one, you can give it a little taste, because it will taste good. Now, the thing with strawberries, when you're picking strawberries, you have to make sure they're completely red. Because unlike tomatoes and bananas and things like that, will ripen after you pick them. Unfortunately, strawberries are not like that. So if you picked a strawberry, like this one here, that's all white, that is going to stay all white. If you do taste this, it's not going to taste very good. It's going to be really, really hard. I would not recommend it. So what you want is you want to find some that are completely red. They look like this. Completely red. Once they're completely red, you got to make sure the bottom of the tip is what's going to go red last. Once that's red, that means this thing is ready to pick. It's full maturity. It's good to go. Tastes good. So we sell. What bugs go after strawberries? There is quite a few of them. Some of our biggest problems are aphids, or something called tarnished plant bug. And you can see, might be a little bit hard to tell, but aphids go after the plant, and they really take all the energy of the plant. And they'll make your strawberry plants look really, really weak. They won't grow as much. They won't put as many fruit out. Their leaves won't be as full. And we do have a bit of that in this field here. So some of the ways we try to avoid that is we only keep our strawberry plants around for a few years, because aphids, once they're in a field, they like to stay there, and they're really, really hard to get out. So what we have to do is we only keep a field for about 2 or 3 years, and then we have to tear it out, as in we kind of like disc up the whole field, and we plant strawberries somewhere else. And that way, hopefully those aphids who are there kind of disappear, and we won't plant strawberries there for 4 or 5 years to make sure that all the bugs and all the diseases that were there before are hopefully gone. But there are quite a few bugs. Another big problem is slugs. There isn't really a solution for slugs. The best thing for slugs is you just have to keep your field really clean of weeds, because slugs will get attracted to the weeds first, and then they'll find the strawberries and they'll start eating the strawberries. So if you keep your field nice and clean of weeds, hopefully you don't have as many bugs as well. So So anyways, we pick all our strawberries. All our strawberries kind of get to go through our store. We have our own little farm store in Brantford here where you can buy our strawberries. Or we also do a lot of you pick strawberries as well. So if you guys are looking for something to do, we look like we're going to start our you pick strawberries about June 20th. You guys can come out, pick your own strawberries, see what it's all about. And I'll be there too. So if you guys have any more questions after that, you can always ask me more questions. But yeah, if you guys want to come pick more. Does our strawberries make jam or make jam? We make lots of different products. That's one great thing about strawberries is there's tons and tons of different products you can make with strawberries. We do make some jam with ours. We also make pies out of our strawberries, and we also make some like fizzy drinks out of our strawberries. We have a couple breweries around who are trying to use our strawberries to make some other drinks with those. So there's lots of options. Most of our strawberries though tend to go for the fresh market, which means like what you would buy in a store, or just to eat right away, or to put on ice cream, which is also one of my favorite things to do. So yeah, so while we're picking, what we like to do is we have these things called 6-liter flats. They weigh about 6 pounds each. So our workers will come in the morning. We'll get them to start at one end of the field, and they'll work their way all the way to the other end of the field, and they'll try and finish a whole row. Anywhere, and they'll usually pick, some of our pickers can pick anywhere between 10 to 50 to 60 flats a day, which means they can pick anywhere from about 60 pounds to about 240 pounds. And the best thing to do is you really got to make sure you try and pick your berries in the morning, because if you start picking in the afternoon and it gets really, really hot, that's when they don't store as well. That's when they start going softer a little bit earlier. So we like to wake up nice and early, right as the sun's coming up. We get out here first thing in the morning, pick them really fresh, just while it's cool still, so they can stay nice. And that way, when you guys come to the store or you get your berries, they should be nice to pick that day and fresh, which is my favorite. Is there plants you should grow around strawberries? There's nothing too worrisome. Like there's no bugs that are attracted to other plants that would go after your strawberries as well. The most important thing would be to do is make sure you don't plant strawberries where you've planted strawberries before for a couple of years. Like we have all kinds of different crops around our strawberry field. This one over here is actually sweet corn. We have one over here that's actually going to be in the pumpkins. So there's no real bugs. The more fruit you have in one area, obviously you're going to attract more and more bugs. So, I mean, if you could separate them a little bit, that would be the best thing to do. Now, the most important thing for anyone who wants to grow strawberries in their garden is the hardest thing about growing strawberries in a garden is that they need lots and lots of sunlight. So I'm really lucky out here is that I got tons and tons of sunlight out here. I don't really have any trees or fences kind of in my way to kind of block out the sun. So some of these plants will probably get sun for about 15 to 16 hours a day right now. For sometimes, if you guys plant strawberries in your garden, you know, they might only get about half a day because a fence or a tree or something is in the way for half the day of getting their sunlight. The other thing is, if you guys are going to plant strawberries in your garden, there's different kinds of strawberries. These strawberries here are what I call June bearing. June bearing means that we're going to plant them now. We're going to start, and they're going to be ready in June, and we're going to pick them for about the next 6 weeks, and then they're done. But there's another kind of strawberries that I like to call ever-bearing strawberries, which we will also plant in the spring, but they'll be ready in about July or August, and they'll keep producing. They'll keep ever-bearing, so they'll keep putting more and more fruit out until they get frosted off. So if you are looking to grow strawberries maybe in your garden, or just in your house or somewhere you know, sometimes it's almost better to just grow these ones called ever-bearing because you'll get them a little bit in the summer and they'll keep producing more strawberries. Whereas the ones I grow here called June berries, you have to plant them 1 year. You're going to have to look at them for a whole year, and then you can start picking them the year after. So there's whole kinds of different kinds of strawberries. These are June berries. But if you're going to garden, I would probably recommend using the ever-bearing ones. So yeah. So anyways, does anyone have any more questions? That almost just about wraps up my time, I believe. I appreciate you guys all coming and checking me out. I hope you guys learned some things about strawberries. If you have any more questions, my name's Andrew. I'm from Brantwood Farms, just near Brantford. You guys can come out, pick your own strawberries later on. Pick your own strawberries. Grab strawberries from our store if you want, or all the other goodies we have there. Who names the strawberry varieties? That is usually up to the breeder. So each strawberry plant, before it gets to us, strawberry varieties have been grown for almost about a decade. It almost takes a decade, about 10 years, to really get a new strawberry variety into production, into what I will see. So what that means is for years and years before, these breeders have been taking they've been mixing different varieties, seeing if they can get different flavors or different sizes of berries. And once they think they have one that's good, they'll start replicating it more and more. They'll try it in different conditions. And then by the time it gets to us, it's usually up to breeder about who names it. So unfortunately, I don't get to decide what the names are. But we have about 8 or 9 different varieties in here with all different names. Did you know I always wanted to be a farmer? Well, someone always tells me when I was about 5, my dad gave me the choice between going to kindergarten and farming, and I said I wanted to farm instead, but he still made me go to school. So I've always really enjoyed being outside. I've always really liked working outside. Always really enjoyed the fact that I start with a field that looks like this, and hopefully in a year I get a field like this. So I find that really rewarding. Some days I get really frustrated at farming, but majority of the days I really love it. So I think I've always wanted to do it. Yes. So it makes me happy. Anyways, thanks so much, guys. You guys are great. Again, my name's Andrew Pate. We're from Brantwood Farms. Come check us out. You guys can come pick your own strawberries starting June 20th. If you guys want to come do that, if you're in the Brantford area. So thanks so much, guys. Have a good day.